Hello, and welcome back to the What If Studios podcast, where we do some funny fictionalized dramatizations as well as just talks on culture, on tech, on pretty much anything that comes to mind. So, yeah, it's fun. So, there's snow on the ground outside. I'm here in Atchison, Kansas. While I was back home in Rockford, Illinois, got to spend time with family, celebrated Christmas, had a bunch of cousins, aunts, and uncles, friends over. I was talking to my one cousin Alex, and we were talking about mics, and he suggested one that might be good for podcasting, so I'm gonna try and follow up with that eventually. Also got to go with the Frews, this one family of friends, and we went and saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse over break. I really enjoyed it, actually. Like, I was going into it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this movie is going to be so stupid. Stupid. And I sat through it, and I had a good couple of laughs. You know, it had emotion, it had character development, even though, it's all about spider people. It actually still had some of that, and I was quite impressed actually with the animation, the storytelling, elements of comic relief. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I also noticed there's some shameless promoting of Sony products. This is a Sony animated picture, and like, if you look close enough at the headphones the main character is wearing in one scene, and when he looks up at a building, you look at the side of it and it says Sony in big letters on the side of it. So but hey, I mean, self-promotion, whatever. So today I'd actually like to ramble on for however long about anthropomorphism. Yes, anthropomorphism. And yeah, I don't think I actually said that the right way the first time I tried saying it out loud either. So what is anthropomorphism? Well, we actually see it a little bit even in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. We actually see it with Spider-Ham. Why do we see it with Spider-Ham? Well, he's an animal character with human attributes. So it is an expression of anthropomorphism. Anthropomorphism, if you use your handy dandy Google search engine, will tell you it is the attribution of human traits, emotions, or intentions to non-human entities. It's considered to be an innate tendency of human psychology. I would probably agree with that, because if you examine like pretty much all of like the ancient mythologies of the pagans in ancient history, you will see this anthropomorphism where like you have these human figures and yet they have animal characteristics. So like it's hard to tell, if they're trying to represent, this type of creature, or if they're trying to represent a person or, a deity or whatever. But we see anthropomorphism so much in just the past half century of cinematography and pop culture, particularly in animated film, I would say. And when you look up anthropomorphism, the very first image it gives you here, at least for me, is an image of the sloth from Zootopia. Came out a few years ago. And actually quite a few of the anthropomorphic characters that it lists, are, other super common Disney animated characters such as Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Goofy, who's Goofy. Yeah. And we can find anthropomorphism in so many films. I mean, and some of them are like really my favorite too. I mean, you think about it. I was in the gym the other day and, caught part of Kung Fu Panda 3. And so that's all anthropomorphism. It's not even like, the Madagascar DreamWorks series where like, oh, they're animals like in the human world. In Kung Fu Panda, it's the whole world, it's China, or whatever, and it's all animals. People are non-existent. So it's like this extreme instance of anthropomorphism. I will say anthropomorphism can make for some really interesting, fun storylines. Because, I mean, if you're not going to use humans as your main characters, I mean, what's the next best thing? Like, you're going to jump to, mammals, like a panda, like a fox, like a mouse, I guess, even, Steamboat Willie, and all that. We're seeing anthropomorphism in many Hollywood animated feature films of late, especially like you think about some of your dog movies, even if it's not animated, they have the little voices inside the dog's heads, or like the dog's mouths start moving, and like they're talking English or whatever language you have it set to, and they're trying to put the human world into the doggy dog world. And sometimes that can be interesting, as in like, Homeward Bound, and other times it can be just downright stupid. Or like, a super great example of anthropomorphism, aside from, Zootopia or Homeward Bound, can be found in The Secret Life of Pets. Again, it's this whole subculture of everything these animals are doing, which is very human-like, partying, having emotions such as jealousy, and all this. Like, animals really don't get jealous. They might get very protective, over something they enjoy. But again, like, romantic love or true admiration, is expressed by some of these characters in these animated films. It's like, an animal truly can't experience or present that. But once again, like, most animals can't talk like people either, except for parrots, I guess. So, I mean, when you're in a fictional movie, you gotta, whenever you're watching a movie, you gotta remember that, it's not real, even if they say it's based on a true story. I don't know why I said that, because I don't think there are any true stories based on dogs being jealous and talking to people. I don't know. I'm sure Disney will fix that one of these years. So if we take anthropomorphism and recognize, its fantastical elements in fictional stories such as films, and particularly animated films, we can start to enjoy the fact that quite a few animated films about animals, having these animal characters, actually have better character development than a lot of, big live action Hollywood films nowadays. And it's actually, in a way, it's kind of sad, but I'm at least glad that some films, are still presenting some amount of like clear, thought out character development. And like, this can be found, I would say, in Zootopia. Like, there is a clear like goal set for her, the main character, and the bunny, and she just keeps working towards it, and she learns, on the job. She, goes through different experiences, makes new friends, and adjusts. She adapts, and it's actually leading somewhere, and Zootopia is not like the best example of it, but like, it's still a fair example. I have been a fan of many of the Madagascar films, even they might throw in some crass stuff, but like, most of the time they're really funny. And so like, I liked Madagascar 3, and Madagascar 2. Madagascar 1, the first Madagascar film, seemed more of a parody on like just about every film, and like used music from like just about everything. So it's actually interesting that it was successful, since it like parodied so many different things. But for my dad, my brother, and I, like, what makes the movies entertaining and interesting is always, the penguins of Madagascar, and they want to go back to Antarctica in the first film. having like this human desire to, like, we need to go back, we need to go back home. We don't belong here. And they devise this whole plan, and like they, again, extreme anthropomorphism. They end up being significantly smarter than most of the humans in the story, frequently knocking them out, knocking them unconscious, and stealing entire cargo shipments. And again, in the first Madagascar, like, you have this human-like representation of like these different tribes on Madagascar. Like, you have this carnivorous tribe, you have like this stupid tribe that's following King Julian, the lemurs, and then you have these four newcomers. And of course, like any animated animal movie is going to have to thrive off anthropomorphism if it's of any length and they want any character development, because the characters need to have dialogue. And so to have that and have the characters be animals, I mean, it's anthropomorphism right there. Eventually, the Penguins of Madagascar got their own movie, which took kind of anthropomorphism to the next level of creepy, where Dave the octopus, the evil villain of the film, is able to make himself look human when he's really not, and it's pretty creepy. And a lot of these anthropomorphic animated, so-called children's films really present a lot of action, occasional, drama, and just a lot of hard-hitting, comedy, which I think is why they're so appealing to, a wider, more general audience, of pretty much any age. And like, there's so many other films that use this, like, apart from the Madagascar franchise. Like, you have Open Season, okay, with the bear and the deer and the wiener dog who has no self-control. Another one of my favorite animated film franchises, Ice Age, thrives off of anthropomorphism. I mean, after the first Ice Age film, there's no people in it except for like Santa Claus in the Christmas special, and I don't really know if he counts. But it's all about, mammoths, and sloths, saber-toothed tigers. And, why do I like Ice Age? I mean, I like the music. I like John Powell's compositions. I mean, that's kind of like the lesser end of it, but like, I do like, just the idea of, three dudes just around trekking, and then like the one gets a family, and then like by the fourth film, Diego finally gets a girlfriend. It's about time. Plus, I really liked the introduction of, that character voiced by Jennifer Lopez. And then eventually, Sid finally gets a girlfriend. This goal he's been striving for desperately since the very first film finally comes to fruition in the fifth one that we saw. And then we got Neil deGrasse Tyson narrating a weasel inside another weasel's mind. Weird baloney stuff like that. And like, again, like with the examples of anthropomorphism, like, it's so obvious. Like, literally the name for Neil deGrasse Tyson's character is Neil deGrasse Weasel. So, I mean, it's a very non-original name. So everybody gets it, Who can't love Scrat, the mindless squirrel who's absolute idiot, chasing his nut across the countryside, the world, and in the latest film, the entire galaxy, perhaps the entire universe, who knows? Looney Tunes. Looney Tunes also builds off anthropomorphism significantly, in characters such as, Daffy Duck. And like, there's even a reference to the pig in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Spider-Ham says right before he leaves, that's all, folks. It was pretty good. I would suggest going and seeing that movie. I liked it. But we also find anthropomorphism significantly in like classical works of literature, believe it or not, like Black Beauty. The novel is seriously narrated by none other than the horse. So the horse gives this whole narrative on its life, like the horse, must have taken up journaling, at some point in its life, and you're like, how does it hold a pencil? And like, but that's beside the point. Maybe, the horse was being interviewed. Who knows how we got the story, and we see it in Narnia, obviously, like, all the talking animals in Narnia, such as, Aslan, the beavers, and even the horses there, And we even, get hints of the anthropomorphism in the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, regarding Middle Earth, such as Smaug the dragon and the Hobbit. He's this very covetous creature with cruel instincts and a hard-to-suppress ego, which Bilbo actually, feeds in an attempt to stay alive longer, which he succeeds in doing. Other places we find, popular anthropomorphism include another DreamWorks animated saga, Shrek, the donkey, and other animal characters, and then like the spin-off, I actually enjoyed Puss in Boots, the animated movie, better than I enjoyed pretty much all of the Shrek films. Antonio Banderas is great as Puss. Plus, I'm kind of a cat guy myself, so we find anthropomorphism in Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, where the main characters are fish, but with all these human emotions and desires, aspirations, thoughts, ideas. Ratatouille. It's seriously about a rat. Disney made a popular blockbuster animated feature about a rat. So that kind of tells us pretty much we can do anthropomorphism on just about anything and we'll watch it. The Lion King, a classic for all time. Not the live action remake, which isn't live action, but the original animated classic. It's a really good example of anthropomorphism, and it's a good musical, and it's got a fond place in my heart, so it's a good one. Chicken Run, oh my gosh, with Mel Gibson as the main chicken, and all the chickens consciously knowing that they're going to be baked into pies and not wanting to be baked into pies. Even older animated Disney films have like this basis revolving around cute, fuzzy mammalian creatures, such as 101 Dalmatians, Bambi, for goodness sakes, The Jungle Book, which has been retold over and over and over and over again. And we don't see anthropomorphism just in animals, it's applied easily elsewhere. Like, another prime Disney example is Beauty and the Beast, where the one guy is turned into like this, creature, some subhuman creature dominated by his anger, and his friends are all turned into trinkets. Granted, animated trinkets, but or quote-unquote living things, but these aren't animals, and yet this is another example of anthropomorphism where we're taking these objects and now applying human attributes to them. So, you have the clock, you have the French candlestick, you have all these various characters who have these human characteristics now. So pretty much we've concluded like anthropomorphism can be applied story-wise to practically anything. But what are some of the effects that anthropomorphism might have on society or culture or individuals and audience as a whole? Well, I think if you stay in the right mindset, like anthropomorphism, you know, modern anthropomorphism can be no big dealio, but you have to have reached, you know, the age of reason, I would say. So the problem I could see in young children watching animated feature films based all around animal characters is that their moral development might align human beings and animals or even inanimate objects to be on the same level of dignity or superiority. Like there would be no superiority whatsoever. Or the children could be being sent these subliminal messages informing them that, you know, animals have minds very similar to our own, that have like these higher thinking capabilities, as well as, you know, emotional attachments and like these aspirations. No child should actually grow into adulthood thinking that a rabbit goes about her day striving to be a police officer. And I'm not suggesting that, you know, kids will grow up with that, but there will be some hint, some residue, I would assume, left of this notion that animals and people are pretty much on a par, you know, with one another, with capabilities and dignity and how they live out their lives. I don't think that is a message that should be sent to young, impressionable minds. So you might think that's a little bit harsh, and it's not like I'm like, oh, you can't watch that film. Like, I'm not really going to do that. I'm just saying it would be something interesting to keep an eye on and watch out for. But as a rule, anthropomorphism, to a certain extent, in entertainment should not have any super extreme effects. At least I would hope not, because I still like Ice Age and the Penguins of Madagascar. So thanks again for listening to What If Studios podcast. This is our third episode, hoping to bring you more. Just FYI, every other episode we're alternating. So like our last episode was a fictional dramatization. This episode was just a chat series with myself. Eventually we'll try and get some additional guests on. So this was our non-fictional episode. So the next episode we'll bring you will actually be a fictional dramatization of some sort. The last episode we did that was fiction, you can check out. It was a remake of Orson Welles' dramatization back in 1938 of H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. So we kind of did a re-representation of that. That was really fun. So please give us a like, give us a follow. Hope you enjoyed listening. Thank you, and goodbye.